Call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Administrator.
Yes, please join us in an attitude of prayer. God in heaven, we thank you for the blessings received. For those gathered here today, inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas as we seek to work together to ensure that the decisions made today benefit the residents of Clay County. Amen.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Here.
That brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion related to this afternoon's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Motion has been made for the approval of today's agenda as printed. Discussion. I would like to take one item off of our agenda. Make that motion to remove 2022-335. That's the last item on page 1 of the agenda. That is, there are some, I think, prep work that still needs to be done on that.
That is correct. This is a request from staff to pull this from the agenda to the next work session.
Very good. With that, is there any discussion?
No discussion. Thanks.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Nolte.
Yes, although I'm not sure I needed to vote on that one, but I don't mind.
I'm just making sure.
That brings us to approval of the agenda now, approval of the agenda as amended. Are there any other changes or any further discussion on the agenda?
No, thank you.
Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson
Yes.
and Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Meeting schedule, Administrator?
Yes, the next meeting of the commission is a business session next Wednesday, October the 12th at 6 p.m. here in the chambers.
Very good. Honorary resolutions, there are none today. We do have one item under discussion items, Administrator.
Yes, this is a presentation by County Auditor Herbert regarding additional funding that the county might be eligible for under the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund.
Very good. Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. I just wanted to bring to the Commission's attention a notice we received from the U.S. Treasury Department last Thursday, the 29th, of another component of the American Rescue Plan Act. It's called the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. Essentially what it is, it's $2 billion was allocated in ARPA. $1.5 billion of that was for what we call revenue sharing local governments such as ourselves. Those would be those counties with federal lands that receive payments in lieu of taxes, and the rest for tribal governments. Essentially, it's a entitlement grant. There's nothing really that further we need to do other than apply to receive the funds. In addition to being eligible because we're a PILT or PILT revenue sharing type of county. They also took into consideration some factors such as unemployment level, poverty level, median income, as well as land. And in doing so, what we had is that Clay County, as well as a lot of the neighboring counties in Missouri, are only due the minimum amount, which is just $50,000. But it's over 2 years, so it'll be $100,000 total. And essentially, there really aren't many restrictions on this bucket of funds from the Rescue Plan Act. It can be used on any governmental purpose. It doesn't have to follow any other constraints. It's for an eligible period from March 15th of 2021 until you expend the funds. And so basically what I come to the Commission today is just like with our previous COVID funds from Rescue Plan and Renewal Assistance is seek your general consensus to move forward and make that application. All we do is put in our bank account information and have the presiding commissioner sign that agreement, send it to U.S. Treasury, and they'll submit payments on a rolling basis. Once we receive those funds, I'll come back to you in the form of a reappropriation, and we can determine then at that point how to best use these dollars. My recommendation, just as discussion, would be essentially reimburse an existing expenditure and put this into our cash balance since it's a rather small amount. That being said, if the commission or administration has a desire to use an additional type of spending or otherwise, we can determine that and we'll put it in an appropriate account. But I wanted to move fast. We have to apply by the end of January, so we do have some time, but just given on a rolling basis, want to go ahead and get ourselves in the queue. So I believe I covered everything there. I'm happy to answer any questions about this particular source. Again, not a ton of money, but just wanted to get your overall consensus to submit that application.
Any further discussion or questions?
No questions, thank you.
No, it all sounds pretty straightforward and support moving forward with it. Thank you.
Only question that I have, and that would possibly be of council, and that would be, it would, to go forward, would require the signature of the presiding commissioner, obviously myself. And you're seeking, of course, the consensus from the commission. What I want to know is, if that consensus is achieved, do we have the consensus that I can sign off on that? Because I don't like to sign those things off without the go-ahead from my fellow commissioners. So that might be something that I want to just verify so that we can move as quickly as possible. Does that sound about right, Mr. Counselor?
Yes, I think I understood what you were asking. I was talking to with some folks behind me. As I understood it, yes, I think that would be fine.
So get consensus not only to go forward on this, but consensus from the commission that I have their support to sign the documentation.
Correct.
You've got it. Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
Very good. I think I think we have a sense of consensus from the commission on both of those points. Is there any closing remarks before we close the discussion? Seeing none, does staff have a good grasp on what we're doing?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Great. All right, that ends the discussion item. That brings us to public hearings. There are none. There is no consent agenda. That brings us to our regular agenda. First item on that regular agenda is 2022-332. Administrator.
Resolution 2022-332 is consideration of the approval of distributing the 2021 flood control lease funds to the Smithville, Plattsburgh, and Kearney school districts. And Treasurer Nance is here to provide information for the commission.
Please proceed.
Yes, Bob Nance, Treasurer, Commissioners. This almost $21,000 is going to be distributed between 3 schools, and this is for flood control lease payments. Normally, the schools would have received taxes, but because it's in flood control and federal land, they reimburse us what that amount would be, and it is distributed to the schools. And this is on a yearly basis.
I was going to say this is a reoccurring issue.
Yes.
Of course. Questions or comments?
No, just thank you to Mr. Treasurer. Appreciate
No
it.
questions, thank you.
I just want to ask council real quick, because this is the disbursement of money, it's pretty procedural in its nature. Is consent really not recommended because it is the dispersal of monies, even though it's rather, as I say, procedural?
I think it's pretty ministerial. I certainly would have no heartburn with consent on something like this.
I would ask the other commissioners if they would consider consent.
I feel very comfortable with consent.
Same.
Very well, so unless there's further comment, 2022-332 will appear on consent for next week's agenda. That brings us to 2022-334. Administrator.
Resolution 2022-334 is consideration of approving the airport liability insurance renewal with Ace Property and Casualty Insurance Company. This comes from through our risk management, and our risk manager is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. Christine Pulse, Risk Manager. Before you today, for your consideration, is the general liability policy for the airport, which is due to expire on October 14th. Acting on behalf of the county, CBIZ obtained quotes for coverage, and despite the increase from our current carrier, Ace Property Casualty, they still remain the most competitive option in the marketplace. For your reference, the last time we renewed our premium in 2019, it was $23,790. This premium comes in at $28,509. Overall, this is a price increase of approximately 19%. This price increase is primarily being driven by market conditions in the aviation insurance marketplace. This is by no means directly related to Clay County, but more of a nationwide increase in claim payouts, higher jury awards, and a rising defense and cost. CBIZ has seen a rate increase on all of the recent aviation renewals. From a county exposure standpoint, the airport gross receipts, there was an increase of $100,000. In speaking with Cheryl Walters at the airport, she explained that since 2019, we've had 2 increases in hangar lease expenses, so that would account for that increase. And then the other change was at the time of the 2019 renewal, the largest aircraft was $19 million. Currently, it's a $20 million plane on the policy. So with that, are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the commissioners or comments?
No questions, thank you.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you.
Very well. Is there anyone else wishing to comment from the public? Seeing none. 2022-334 regular agenda?
Agree, yep.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-337. Commissioner Administrator?
Resolution 2022-337 is considering the approval of 2 change orders with Boone Construction Company for the Greenwood Bridge project. Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. Resolution 2022-337 is 2 change orders. Change order number 4 is a change of the section of the road from fillable backflow to the higher strength of concrete due to the vehicle capacity on their loads and stuff. Reason being is, you know, what we talked about, there was some repairs back on the road a little bit on the south part of it, about 300 feet away, that when the river gets up, comes through the bend, they had to turn around and do some armoring of that area, and then plus it cuts through the road to go to the other point of that river. So they had to put something in there to armor it a little bit better so that we don't have that issue down the road. MoDOT approved that upgrade. And then the other change order is number 5, which removes the requirements of the contractor to complete the embankment, compaction, the road seal coat, and the deducts of the silt fence that is not needed during construction. So this reduces our cost of the project to $31,341. And the other part of it was $2,500, which comes to about $28,000 less that we have on the cost of the bridge.
Okay. Oh, sounds good. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to comment? Seeing none. 2022-337 on regular agenda?
Agree.
That brings us to 2022-291. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-291 is consideration of approving a donation of an architectural drawing of the Clay County Courthouse. And Director Driscoll is here to provide information to the commission.
Please proceed.
Mike Driscoll, Clay County Parks Director. This resolution, we would like to have the approval for the donation of the proposed architectural drawing of this courthouse from basically the house of the daughter of the architect who drew the building. I do not know exactly what year this drawing was made. I do not even know exactly what size it is. I have not seen it myself yet. But on behalf of the daughter of the architect who drew it, we would like to accept this donation for historic sites and parks of this drawing.
Well, this is a very kind donation that they're making, and particularly appropriate in our bicentennial year, of course.
Yes, I believe it would be.
Comments or questions?
That sounds like a wonderful donation, and look forward to seeing it myself. Thanks.
This looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. Thank you.
Okay. I think this can go on consent, and we'd also have a letter attached of gratitude that I'm sure we'll be able to get through pretty quick. Thank you very much. and that would be on consent for 291. That brings us to 2022-338, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-338 is consideration of approving an addendum agreement with Vermont Systems for the pay-track payment services. This comes from our Parks Department, and Director Driscoll will provide information to the Commission.
Please proceed.
Mike Driscoll, Clay County Parks Director. We would request approval for this agreement as an addendum to a current agreement. This would allow us to add a pay track module to our rec track and web track reservation systems that we use for collections in the parks. This basically allows them to process the fees and administer them on to the user as a convenience fee. Currently, these charges are absorbed by the Parks Department, and this agreement, while costing us about $3,400 a year, will probably save us $68,000 per year, approximately, in convenience fees.
Okay. Questions or comments from the Commission?
No questions, thank you.
No questions, but sounds like a wonderful change. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none. 2022-338 on regular agenda?
I'm good with consent, but either way is good
Would
for
you
me.
like, Commissioner Thompson?
Consent is fine with me.
Very well, then I don't have any particular heartburn with that, so please put 2022-338 on for consent for next week. That brings us to 2022-333, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-333 is consideration of approving county grounds for the use by the City of Liberty for the 2022 Hometown Holiday Event. Deputy County Administrator Kuntz is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator. Yes, this is a request from the City of Liberty and their group Hometown Holidays to host an event on the Rooney Plaza for December the 3rd, roughly noon to 7:30, to do some inflatables and some games for the children. And this is all in conjunction with their mayor's lighting of the tree for that year. Something to entertain the kids while they pass away the time, and also that is the same day as they have visits with Santa that day.
Okay. Questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Very well. Seeing none. 2022-333 of consent.
Agreed.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-339, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-339 is consideration of approving a purchase of hot water heaters, tank, and installation of those infrastructure with Odell Services for the detention and Rooney Justice Center area. We are asking the Commission to approve this purchase and this resolution today. Deputy County Administrator Kuntz will provide information to the Commission on why we are recommending this under an emergency purchase.
Please proceed.
Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator. Yes, Commissioners, we currently operate over the detention facility. We have a 4 hot water tank system, but not only does this system feed all of our detention, it does all of the Sheriff's Administration Department, and it feeds all of our Rooney Justice Court system building in its entirety. We have been experiencing catastrophic failures with the 4 existing hot water heaters. Frankly, we have 1 out of 4 operating well. We have 1 that intermittently wants to fail on computer program, and 2 that are just out. So we're at a critical juncture that we cannot risk either one of these failing. We will not be able to provide the required health code for the temperature to feed the kitchen, to meet all the inmates' food and food sanitation requirements. We won't have hot water for showers in the detention facility. So we've been working with our current vendor, and the reason first of all, it is a critical need, but we have the opportunity to make a repair relatively quickly. Due to the failure of these types of hot water heaters we do not want to use them. The manufacturer is not warranting them anymore. They're discontinuing selling them because must have been a flaw with this particular type of hot water heater. So our vendor that we've been working with has recommended a hot water heater system called the Hubble. It has its own storage tank with a recirculating pump that helps keep it. We have a problem with hard water settlement here within our Liberty buildings. Even though we have water softener treatments down there at the detention facility, it's still not enough to completely alleviate what's going on. So this has a tank system with a recirculating pump that keeps the water moving and circulating through the pipes so we don't have that constant buildup of the sediment. The vendor has a supply house that has on their shelf the tank that we need and 2 hot water heaters. And so what we are wanting to do is to secure these items because they were in stock. And if we lose out on this opportunity, then unfortunately, like everyone else that comes here before you, there's a supply chain issue. And I really could not tell you how long it would be before we could obtain new hot water heaters. We still are looking at a 4 hot water system. However, the 2 now would help us. We still have one that we will not completely disengage this system until we know everything's working properly. And then in 2024, we're going to look at adding 2 more hot water heaters. And I'm sorry that was kind of a lengthy explanation, but certainly if you have any other questions.
Thank you very much. It sounds like we were very fortuitous in our timing. These 2 became available just as we were really having our need most felt. So, questions or comments from the commission?
Thank you. Just in terms of the cost, is the $185,000, do we expect that to be the total cost of this project, or are there future component pieces to it?
So this would be the total cost for what we need to do now. In the future, if we bought 2 more hot water heaters, we'd only have to buy 2 hot water heaters. And what we're going to do now is the infrastructure. This includes the tank, these 2 hot water heaters, all our electrical, and the piping. So in the future, and I should probably be able to get you that number, we would only need to add 2 more hot water heaters. And they would not be in the range of $185,000.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
No questions, thank you.
Is there consensus from the commission to move forward with approval today?
Yes.
Yes.
Very well. Is there any other comments to be made? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-339?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-339.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-339. Discussion?
Thank you.
Seeing none, you are welcome to close. You are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-330. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-330 is consideration of approving ARPA funding for the planning and zoning permitting software. This has been presented to the commission at the last work session for authorizing the project. We're now coming before you to finalize that request in the utilization of ARPA funding. And Planning and Zoning Manager Jones is here to provide information about the project.
Administrator, am I right in that the other ARPA issues coming up have also had a similar track of already being presented to the commission? Okay. Proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is one I'm excited about because my department is very dependent on paper at this point. So this is a request to approve planning and zoning software that I believe would streamline our processes and make my department much more efficient. It would also allow citizens to apply for and track building permits, code enforcement cases, and any planning case through the software as well. In addition, if COVID becomes a pandemic again, or we have another pandemic, this would allow planning and zoning staff to work more efficiently from home and if needed, it would allow us to have less contact with the public in those circumstances. So I ask for your approval on this, and I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Questions or comments?
No questions.
Is the software cost a one-time cost, or is there like an annual charge as well?
There is an annual charge, and I believe we can absorb that into our current budget without asking for additional funds.
Gotcha. And just ballpark, do you happen to have that figure?
It's going to be $19,000 to $23,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
Very well. Any other comments to be made? Seeing none, 2022-330 for regular agenda?
Agreed. Yeah.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-331, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-331 is considering the utilization of ARPA funding for the Agenda Management System project with Civic Plus. Director Shaw is here to provide additional information.
Please proceed.
Kevin Shaw, IT Director. This resolution is for, this is the agenda management software. This is to add in a module, the additional module that enhances the media possibilities and improves the customer service. It'll tie the video to the agenda items right there. The current agenda management costs $7,938 annually. This addition would be $6,600 annually, creating a total cost of about $14,553.
Questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
No, thank you.
Very well, thank you very much. 2022-331 for regular agenda. That brings us to 2022-336. Administrator.
Resolution 2022-336 is consideration of ARPA funding request for website hosting to be under contract with Civic Plus. Director Shaw is here to provide information about this project.
Please proceed.
Kevin Shaw, IT Director. This resolution is for the ARPA funding for website hosting, also with Civic Plus. We are looking at a price around $53,000. That could be $63,000 when you count the annual cost.
Okay. Questions or comments?
No questions, thanks.
No questions.
Very well, 2022-336 will appear on regular agenda next week. We have deleted 2022-335. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 31. Administrator?
Yes, 2022 Ordinance 31 is considering approving an ordinance modification establishing Title III, Chapter 30, Article 1, Division 3, Section 30.47, collective bargaining for law enforcement personnel. And Councilor Graham has information to share with the commission on this.
Please proceed.
Thank you. First of all, my request would be to put this on regular. But essentially, this is just a mechanism set up to recognize how we're going to handle elections, bargaining with FOP or other law enforcement agencies that might do collective bargaining. It is not substantive in nature, where we're essentially making a vote for or against the collective bargaining.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. It is mostly just a procedural ordinance so that we can have a nice, clean, fair election process followed by a bargaining process. And it just kind of sets forth the framework for that. And this is something we tried to do 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And for whatever reason, it didn't get passed. I don't even think it ever came up to a vote. But we do think it would be important to do at this time.
Very good. So really what we're doing is we're setting up a system whereby this can be properly moved forward. This is not an endorsement or non-endorsement of any action. This is just, as you said, procedural to set up the process so that we could go forward and go through the process that we need to.
Yeah, exactly. It's more about setting up a fair process for our deputies that might be involved in it, making sure that the election is fair, making sure that the bargaining process is fair, and then hopefully getting everybody on the same page.
Very well. Questions or comments?
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
Very well. Anyone else wishing to comment? Seeing none. And I believe you requested that this be on regular agenda?
I do. I think that would be the right place for it.
I certainly
And
agree.
and certainly encourage the commission, read through it over the week. If you have any questions, feel free to call me.
Commissioners good with the regular? Very well. 2022 Ordinance 31 will appear on the regular agenda at our next meeting. That concludes our regular agenda. Is there a motion related to that agenda for next week's meeting?
Commissioner, I move that we put items 2022 332, 291, 338, and 333 on next Wednesday, 6 p.m. consent agenda, with the remaining items on next week's regular agenda, less 339 and 335.
Great. So a motion has been made to move for a consent regular agenda lineup along the lines that Commissioner Carpenter has just indicated. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
That brings us to comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone from the public, office holders, or any other agencies who would care to comment on any items not on today's agenda? Seeing none. That brings us to county administrator comments, and I believe you had an issue you would like to discuss, Administrator?
Yes, actually, a couple of items, please. Excuse me. Just as a reminder, county administrative offices will be closed this coming Monday, October 10th, in observance of Columbus Day. And in speaking of holidays, included in your packet was sort of a draft schedule for, hard to believe, the holidays will be here before we know it. And so looking at November and December with potential meeting dates for the commission. In November, there are 5 Wednesdays in November. If you have your packet, there was a schedule that was proposed that basically November 2nd would be a work session, November 9th would be a business session, November 16th would be a work session, November 23rd, which is the night before Thanksgiving, we would not have a meeting, and then November 30th would be the regular business session. Then looking at December, we're proposing December 7th would be a work session. We also have tentatively put December the 9th as a special meeting in the afternoon to swear in the new county officials. December 14th would then be a business session and potentially a work session. December 21st would be a business session, which would be the last business session of the year. With no meeting scheduled December 28th, that week before, between Christmas and New Year's, which I think has been the county's practice in the past. And then the first meeting of the new year with the new commission would be January 4th.
Very good. Thank you very much for that information.
And is there direction from the commission that you would like to do this, or how would you like to proceed?
Is there, first off, are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
No questions, and that works for me. Thanks.
And this looks great. I don't think there'll be any conflicts, and I always love having a little extra time to bake before the holiday, so that should be fine.
So I sense that we have consensus from the commission to go forward along the lines that you just mentioned.
All right, we will make sure and get that posted and adjust our meetings accordingly. This is very helpful, especially for our planning and zoning projects, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comments from the administrator? Seeing none. That brings us to commissioner comments. Commissioner Thompson?
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter?
No comments. Thanks.
I have no comments either. That brings us to approval of minutes of previous meetings. We have 3 sets of meeting minutes to take up. Is there a motion to take up one or all of those sets of minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the June 29th, 6 p.m., the June 30th at 2:30, and the July 6th, 3 p.m. meeting minutes as printed.
Motion's been made for the approval of the minutes of Wednesday, June 29, 2022, 6 p.m., Thursday, June 30, 2022, 2:30 p.m., and Wednesday, July 6, 2022, 3 p.m. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Brings us to written reports. We have, I believe, 4 reports that are being submitted to us. Would you like to?
That is correct, Commissioners. These reports, and we're trying a new process to get those reports on the agenda and included in the agenda packet for everyone to review before the meetings. So we do have 4, and staff is certainly here to answer any questions that you may have about any of those written reports.
Are there any questions or comments about the reports submitted to the commission?
No questions. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Very well, thank you. We have no executive sessions scheduled. That brings us to recess and adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you.